I love Pepper Grinder. I think a lot of people remember this game from a Donkey PAX East video from 2017. Or at least I do. And I remember following this game for all those years, waiting for it to come out. Then I learned it was getting a Switch port, and then I learned that meant it wouldn't come out for another couple of years. I think that Pepper Grinder's alpha trailer from 2017 and demo showed a lot of obvious promise. I mean, just looking at and listening to this game makes it clear that there's something special at play. I don't think that Pepper Grinder often lives up to its potential. In fact, in a lot of ways, Pepper Grinder is disappointing, even if you're someone who just learned about Pepper Grinder 1 minute ago. But I do think that this game delivered in all the ways I was hoping it would. Although it's short and sloppy, I had a thoroughly good time, like a perfectly proportioned short stack of pancakes. Pepper, that's her, controls exactly how I expected her to. The actual things you can do as Pepper are very limited, and the level design ends up carrying most of the mechanical weight in Pepper Grinder. More of a Mario game than a Wario game. In addition to this pathetic jump and the ability to spin your drill, which propels you forward in dirt or water, you can boost to propel yourself forward in dirt, but faster this time. I love boosting more than I need to and getting in trouble for it. I always take damage when I get greedy with the boosts, but it's just so fun, and when I pull off a series of precise boosts to speed through a level, it's pure opium. It's legit. I love this game. You also get access to a grappling hook, which only works on contextual button prompts that are definitely awkward at times. I think it works the best when it's doing the circle hooks between drill segments. But other times, Pepper Grinder opts for circle hooks that are just suspended in the air for you to time like any vine, grappling hook, or whip swinging jump in any Zelda game. Or Pepper Grinder will use point hooks where you zip to the hook and then get bumped up a little. These don't really seem to fulfill a purpose other than to give the hook something else to do and grind down some rougher edges of the level design. There are plenty of other level elements like cannons, which are basically Donkey Kong barrels, and oh, that's it actually. But okay, not actually. Each world has its own level elements like the cauldrons and ice blocks and rockets and these red-blue wall thingies, but with the exception of that last example, they are not often used in a very clever way and are more one-dimensional than the cannons, in my opinion. That being said, those same level elements are combined almost round-robin style throughout the short runtime in a way that adds layers and complexity to very simple level objects. Where Pepper Grinder falls short in these level elements, it more than makes up for it with the broader level design, and especially game feel. Pepper Grinder does not fuck up game feel in any meaningful way, besides one specific section, which I'll get to, I promise. Drilling through sand and dirt feels clean and sharp. You have fairly fine control over Pepper while grinding, but you turn just slow enough, and there is just enough feeling of resistance from the sand that you feel a clear force and power from the drill, whose name is Grinder, by the way. It's as if Grinder is pulling Pepper through the earth like a cat toy or that Nokia snake game. When you're not drilling through the earth, you're probably on land. Which controls fine enough, I suppose, though there's not a lot of gameplay here to really feel like much of anything. And if you're not in the earth or on top of it, you're probably underwater. And to be honest, I really love the water controls in this game. The drill gives you the means to control your direction, but you're still buoyant and slow to accelerate and turn. So you still have to be controlled and patient and measured in your movement. It feels really good to snake through the mines when you're infiltrating the narwhal base it's great. Unlike underwater controls in most games, I think Pepper Grinder avoids the trap of feeling like the game is slowing you down for no reason. And if you're not in the earth, or on top of it, or underwater, you're shooting through the sky like a badminton birdie, or maybe a baseball, depending on the circumstance. There's a real dolphin feel to your movement, which I think was the target that was aimed for. If so, they nailed it. There's also this trick you can do to skip on top of the water and time your jump to get more air that is really only applicable in generously one full level's worth of water. This mechanic feels like it doesn't go anywhere, which is a shame because it's just so cool and so fucking fun. I would say that Pepper Grinder delivered overwhelmingly on the feeling that I was hoping it would. And that success is the most major reason I love this game. Pepper Grinder's presentation also hits some very high highs. with the unfortunate company of some very low lows, but mostly it hits the above average mark, in my opinion. Holy shit, the pixel art is just so detailed and gorgeous. The character designs are simple, vibrant, and expressive. Pepper has a lot of personality in a very simple sprite, and the same is true for virtually every other enemy and ally in this game. I don't have a lot of words here because the visual arts are not my field, but I hope it's clear to you that the pixel art is fantastic, even if you haven't played Pepper Grinder. The soundtrack is also very catchy and memorable. I can still hum along to the original 2017 alpha trailer music in my head this many years later. Unfortunately, this original trailer seems to be lost to the sands of YouTube, and the old song listing on SoundCloud has been removed. Not every song meshes well with the rest of the OST, and not every track hits individually for me, but they do more often than not. I like how each world has its own instrumentation and style, though they all employ jungle and drum and bass techniques to give the soundtrack a holistic vibe and style, while still giving room for each area to stand out. Boss fights often take the D&B elements into full-on house and EDM. Personally, I don't think the soundtrack is a weak spot for Pepper Grinder. In fact, it's a major highlight. The audio design as a whole, though, is definitely a weak spot. It's got sounds that are too loud or quiet in the mix, or overcompressed effects, or effects that are out of place. Honestly, this is so prevalent throughout the entire game that I want to spend more time highlighting all the audio design details that delighted me while playing this game. The effect when picking up a turnip is just perfect for a health item. It's satisfyingly crunchy and healing. I absolutely adore it, and picking up a turnip releases dopamine every time. The tightening percussion sounds playing up the scale when you're doing the little gem circles feel very cohesive with the rest of the presentation and made me want to do every single one of them every single time. Enemies will pop like balloons and then crunch and fall to the ground. They explode into different bones, and the sound effects to accompany are brittle and crackly to fit the violence inflicted, but snappy and light enough that they're not too distracting. The screams that enemies make when they're dying are screechy and reinforce their position as baddies, but are just cute enough to not ruin any affection you might have for these critters. Finally, the drill itself spins with an effortless purr, and starts up with a light bump each time you hit the trigger. For the most part, I think the audio design holds up in Pepper Grinder, but there are still so many sound effects that feel like placeholders that never got filled in, or like the audio engine is bugged even. In particular, this mech segment in these two levels late in the game showcased so many of Pepper Grinder's problems in one convenient place, including the audio design. You could make a segment out of this. The mech's sound effects are out of place and too loud in the mix. Seriously, it feels like it's part of a different game. The mech itself is also really awkward to control. Taking one predetermined action at a time, you can sort of, like, charge ahead in the middle of a jump, and you can try to speedrun, I guess, through that, but it's bad. You charge up your jump like a spring, which should add some depth to this fun destroy everything parade, but instead it just made navigating this part of the level imprecise and frustrating. I don't know why they made the jump control like that, or why they added a vertical platforming challenge for the Mega Mushroom. The mech is also somehow slippery, especially while landing, adding to the awkwardness of this whole thing. Both levels with this mech would play better if you could just not mount it. You can still get hit in this mech, by the way. You're very unlikely to get hit even if you try, but it's worth mentioning you're not actually invulnerable in this thing. The same is true for the snowmobile, and I think the snowmobile does a much better job of this, like, destroy everything parade Mega Mushroom thing. I like it a lot more with the snowmobile, and I think the level design supports it better. And the mech just kind of, it feels indulgent, and it sucks, and I don't like it. Though I like the design. I like the mech design. Bosses. are very hit or miss in Pepper Grinder. I love the final boss the best. It's actually incredible and really, really hard, especially for your first time. I beat it first try when I went to replay this game for this video, which I think just goes to show how great that boss is that I still have those patterns down. But for the sake of not showing every second of this video game, I'll point out instead the magma worm. It makes really good use of the terrain and hazards of the levels earlier in its world, as well as being a really good test of your ability to steer and do vertical dolphin dives. I really like this boss, and it feels like one of the truer tests of skill the game throws at you. The first boss does a good job as a lesson, but it is slow and frustrating in the way that the worst Zelda bosses tend to be.
One, two, three.
And it isn't totally clear what's going to hurt you and what's not. It's a gorgeous sprite, sure, but it does a poor job of gameplay conveyance. It's a bad first impression of a boss for Pepper Grinder, though it does integrate the central pepper grinding mechanic very well, so I don't know. Mixed bag. Lastly, I have a miscellaneous category for all the thoughts that didn't have another home or aren't fleshed out enough to count as an entire section. This sticker sheet gotcha capsule machine system is totally meaningless and adds nothing besides something to spend your gems on and a fun collectible. It's an inoffensive addition, but also a meaningless one. I guess your mileage may vary if you like the sticker sheets, but I don't care. Pepper Grinder opts for a traditional world map 2D platforming level design like Super Mario 3. It works well enough and the art for the map itself is characteristically great. I love that it slowly tilts as you go through the levels, as you traverse the world, I guess. Though there aren't any warp points or roaming mobs like Mario 3. It's more like a list of levels with a fun presentation and some geometry than an actual, game mechanic, the way that I think even Super Mario hit that bar. You still unlock levels on the overworld, and they connect in ways a list would not. But it's a lightweight world map that I thought fit its niche perfectly for Pepper Grinder. The alternate colors are cool, though they don't add much besides the token customization and something to spend your extra coins on. Still, I like that they're here, and I think they serve more of a purpose than the sticker machine. Time trials are a totally necessary addition for how short this game is, and how much it seems to be geared towards mastering levels and moving fast. I had a lot of fun trying the same levels over and over to get better times, until I really felt like I couldn't do any better. Of course, I did end up with every gold time trial medal to 100% the game, though some levels are more demanding than others, and the time trials don't feel very balanced or equally strict. I think the gold time targets could use a couple adjustments on a couple specific levels. The little taunt jump scare sound check when the game boots up is iconic. It shows a sense of humor and lightheartedness to this whole project from literally the first sound. It's a weirdly good tone setter for what is basically a joke. I think Pepper Grinder has very good pacing for the most part. It doesn't drag in any area except the mech segments, and as long as you're attentive enough to pick up some gold coins, unlocking the additional levels happens very naturally throughout a first playthrough. I want to pay one extra point of attention to the length of this game. It is very short and very linear, so it loses some replay value in that sense, but I found Pepper Grinder a very replayable game, since simply controlling the game is a joy, and the levels are excellently built to be mastered. Finally, I sometimes wish the gem magnet was just a little weaker and only pulled them in if you were a smidge closer, but this is definitely the most, this is definitely the smallest nitpick of this video, and maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Pepper Grinder was my most anticipated game of 2024, and although Pepper Grinder is a messy product in more than one way, and I was disappointed in more than one way, I still love this game, and I think it's a clear example of what a singular sharp vision can do for a game that's otherwise lacking in many areas. It succeeds in silence, and the pitfalls are that much more obvious because the successes of Pepper Grinder feel so effortless. If you watched the trailer or that Donkey video years ago and thought it looked like a fun electric platformer that you just wanted to play, to control, and fly through the levels, I think Pepper Grinder totally delivers. At just 11 hours for my 100% playthrough, it's not as much
what we call a masterpiece for your wallet.
as Silksong is, but it is an inexpensive, supremely fun game with a very sharp edge, in which I found immense pleasure and would recommend to lots of people. It succeeds in most of the ways it tried, and the trips that Pepper Grinder did make felt like a product of being developed solo, more than anything else. Thanks for watching. Hit the like and subscribe button.